Welcome to episode 2 of what we're calling Finance Focus. I'm joined again by Sardi, our CEO, by Jarrod Morris, the founder and CEO of Bolden, a finance-focused digital transformation company that we've had a little bit to do with in recent times. First episode, we talked about why this conversation, the conversation around the evolving role of finance in business, is important. Go back and check that out if you like. I'm not going to cover it all again right now. But today, we're going to talk about the ROI gap. So you've decided to invest in a tech spend. And as Russ said last episode, 96%, was it 96, 97?
96, yeah.
Got that right. Look at me go. 96% of projects now are technology projects. So the need to ensure a return on those investments is absolutely necessary. It's absolutely critical. So we're going to talk about that today. We're going to talk about how to actually determine the ROI and map that out. And then we're going to talk about how to hit it. Those are two very important factors. Ross, how does one, when it comes to a technology spend, map out? We'll just talk about mapping out now, the return. We'll talk about how to hit it later. So how do you actually, how's that look?
Other than using our new ROI calculator, I guess.
Great segue.
Yeah, okay.
And in future episodes, we will absolutely be demoing that. So stay tuned.
Yeah. Look, it's a challenge that a lot of organizations have had for quite some time. Even if you look at enterprise digital transformation projects that have, it's not new, they've been around for a while. People have struggled to show ROI. And I think there's countless stats when you go out and look at various studies, and so you get to see a range of what people say are successful transformation projects. But one thing's certain, it's not 100%. In fact, it's for most studies, it's less than 50%, and many it's actually quite a small percentage that meet what they were originally setting out to do. It doesn't mean they achieve nothing from that project. It just means that most don't actually achieve what they set out to do. And that's been magnified now with AI, where most, again, I've seen some various numbers on this, but let's say roughly 50% of projects won't even go past the kind of proof of concept stage, right? But at least the only way you can really assess that is by actually understanding what you actually want to achieve to start with.
That report came out in the last couple of weeks, didn't it?
Yeah.
I think, right. That was an American one or global or?
Yeah, I think it was. I know Gartner released one recently, and there was another big one as well. But the biggest thing that came out of it that I saw was, I think it's less than something like 25% of AI projects have any measures whatsoever.
Why are they doing them then?
Because people it's one of those things I think at the moment where people are like, I just need to get involved. I need to start doing stuff with AI, right? And I think we can kind of subjectively feel, hey, this is generating this thing that before used to take me ages. Therefore, tick.
But actually, what's it changed?
Right. And so actually taking the time to stop and go, how does this impact my P&L? And we have in our business, it's the what cell on this spreadsheet am I updating because of this, right? At what point is it actually hitting my P&L? Whether that's higher revenue, lower cost, bit of both, or a decision that it's not that, and I'm doing something purely from a staff satisfaction or some other thing. You can make that decision. But even if you're doing that, really you're doing that for a reason. It's because I want staff to stay longer. Well, what's that going to impact? You can go as far down the chain if you want. Yeah. Ultimately, as a business, if you're not doing something that's making a difference on that back to the forecast spreadsheet in the last chat, doesn't make sense. Okay.
So first thing, timeline on a technology spend. How long should we be giving it? Who wants to answer that?
Well, I know I've got a view, and that is that if you can't actually show a return in a 12 to 18 month time frame, it's probably not worth doing. But that will change depending on the type of business and depending on the type of investment. Now, we're not doing big infrastructure projects where you need a 30-year life on something. Yeah. Generally the sort of stuff that we're doing is, I'm going to spend some money today, and if I don't get some money back by next year, well,
Yeah, it's not in my nature to cop out of an answer, but that really is a how long is a piece of string question. I think it's entirely dependent on the project, and we would ordinarily model a business case per project as well. But I tend to agree with Ross. I think if you're pushing past a year, there's so much water under the bridge already that's going to be hard to recover that I think you'd want to see some sort of tangible benefit inside of that.
So does that?
Yeah, because it doesn't mean you have to stop all your return. That means you need all your return at that point. You just need to be able to be seeing an ROI at that point. And there are some projects that might have 3 to 5 year timeframes, but like if you have to wait for 5 years to hopefully get a return on something in a technology space, we don't even know what technology is going to look like 5 years from now. That doesn't make sense anymore.
I think the next generation are increasingly impatient as well.
Totally.
Like if you're managing a kind of younger workforce as well, there's an expectation that those results are more immediate as well. So there's an element of culture that plays into that decision as well, and the composition of your workforce. And if you are considering it as a retention strategy or technique, then I don't think you can afford to wait beyond 12 months to engage that workforce.
And if you think of it right now, if you'd started a big technology project 3 years ago before the generative AI kind of revolution, you would be way off.
Yeah, massively. I was just thinking, does that mean I haven't really got it on my frame here to talk about the implementation model, the what's the word I'm looking for? The tech adoption model. But so no, it's not that. It's the rollout process. But essentially, what I'm trying to say here is the need to fire a few bullets before going big with cannonballs, have a modular approach to rolling out to kind of test that return or to test the theory. Surely that gets more important as the time frame within which that decision is actually going to pay out gets smaller.
Yeah, and what I like to do is talk about what are your quarterly ROI kind of milestones. What do I expect to see in the first 90 days? Well, I don't expect to see everything in the first 90 days. And I think where people go a little bit off is expecting any result in the first 90 days. One of the first things I always get people to measure is nothing other than adoption. And so no matter what it is in rolling out, I don't care what the result is initially. Are people using it? Are people doing it?
Because if they are, the other modeled out positives will happen. Yeah.
Right. So understanding, you know what, at this 90 days, I don't need to do anything other than make sure, oh yeah, I can see that thing has been done 100 times, or 17% of people are, something that tells me that it's in use. Exactly the same you would see from marketing perspective, you do marketing technology type spend, it's the same, right? You don't. It's not, I need to do this, therefore I'm going to get 3 extra sales or 100 extra sales.
But if I can see that some new way of sending out emails got an open rate that was 40% instead of 30%, well, okay, probably what we thought will happen off the back of that holds true. Yeah,
that's right. Now, that's not ROI in itself, right? And so you have to then understand, all right, now that I've seen that, how can I track those, in that case, those leads that are contacting that way, that they progress in the sales cycle, or at the end, if actually everyone that comes through that avenue doesn't end up buying anything.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's where it's a case of, all right, let me step through the ROI kind of journey, because you can't measure, by the time you're going, I need to measure conversions, you're too late. You're too far down the track.
I don't think this is a case of how do we eat the elephant anymore. I think this is a question of, are we even eating elephant? Like, for me, and I know
both of them.
Yeah, look, I know, and maybe this is intended for a later episode, but I think we're at risk of jumping to the default answer that is a huge ERP implementation potentially, just given the nature of the kind of client base that collectively we support. But there are so many agile solutions that exist sort of off the shelf now that can be incredibly well integrated, that potentially it is a case of empowering that next generation workforce to trial some of those initiatives as well. Ross, you spoke a little bit up front to this idea that people are potentially spinning wheels a little bit in AI adoption, and I couldn't help but smile, because I think it was Simon Sinek who talks to the law of diffusion of innovation, where he basically says you've got this early adopter cohort versus the early majority, which comes next. And I've often sort of made that link in the AI environment, because there are people spinning wheels with respect to AI curiosity and temptation, but are you better off just sitting back a little bit and potentially waiting for the solution to evolve before you start to look to embed that in your business as well?
Yeah, and I think for most people I think there's been a tipping point now, and I've certainly heard the general conversation has changed from it's now, if you even asked me 3 months ago, I would have said for a lot of people, yes, just don't throw everything in. You should be exploring. I think now we're past the tipping point, and I actually now, and it's backed by, certainly we've seen from some bigger organizations, that it's now time to throw everything you can at it. Now, it doesn't mean you just do anything and everything. I think each thing still needs to be assessed on its merit. But yeah, understanding that some will fail is actually really important. And if you're actually getting a perfect ROI off every project you're doing, I would actually think you're not trying enough stuff.
Having said that, again, you're only going to know if it's failing if you actually know what you expect to see. And that was, you started off this conversation by saying essentially that while 90% fail, at least a large minority of those don't even know what they're actually trying to get out of it.
Yeah. And so we try and draw it back to 5 key drivers. Am I targeting efficiency? Am I targeting revenue growth? Do I expect this to generate more sales in some way? Am I targeting quality? Right. And again, quality then would flow through in ways such as better client retention or less rework and other things. Am I targeting productivity? Now, productivity is an interesting one because productivity is probably the hardest of all and probably the one that people end up doing the most. We'll get more productivity. Well, that on its own doesn't actually do anything other than allow you to then work again on more efficiency or revenue. Like, okay, cool, now they've got more time to go and do more revenue growth. Yeah, so productivity is an interesting one. And then the last one is really a kind of a risk reduction. So, generally we see it in those 5 ways. It's efficiency, revenue, quality, productivity, or risk reduction. So from a technology project perspective, which of those 5 things am I trying to move and by how much?
I really like that, Ross, because I think my experience is a little bit like the onion, where the why that is communicated in the first instance isn't the ultimate why as to why that business is undertaking this digital transformation program in the first instance. And I think if you can get to the core of the why, you're actually halfway there to realizing a return on investment.
Something I want to... it feeds into what you were just saying, but it's the tangible example I've heard you speak about before. So Copilot is an easy one for us to talk about. Everyone's had Microsoft trying to sell it to them or someone advertise it, whatever. If you've got the account managers with automated meeting summaries, able to get that out after each meeting, they're saving 20 minutes a meeting. They've got 5 meetings a day, whatever it is. That's cool. That's efficiency, arguably productivity.
It's productivity, it's not efficiency, right?
Right.
Yeah, because you haven't saved any... Like, if you do that tomorrow, let's say you've got 10 account managers and you give them all licenses so they can do meeting summarization or something like that enables them to do a task which was laborious quicker.
Yeah.
Okay. Have you saved any money? No. In fact, your costs have gone up.
Yeah.
Right? So tomorrow, you're spending more than you were yesterday.
Yeah.
So it's not efficiency, right? What you're trying to do, is it more revenue? Well, no, not in itself. I've just spent some more money, right? So what I'm trying to do is maybe quality. Maybe I'm trying to make sure it gets delivered the same way every time. So I'm going and creating a Copilot Studio agent that will summarize it in the same way and produce something that looks as, so is that the sort of, like, customers going, wow, I'm so amazed at the minutes I'm getting now? Probably not. What you're trying to actually do there is give the account managers back some time.
Yep.
Right? So we've gone, I'm going to target productivity with this spend. Great. Okay. Well, what am I going to do with that time? So am I going to get them supporting more customers? Great. If there were more customers to support and where those customers are going to come from. Am I going to get them selling more? Well, again, now they've got some time. Maybe that is what I'm going to get them to do. I'm going to go and get them selling more. But you're actually only going to be able to do that if you put the KPIs up, if you're willing to move someone on who doesn't now get the extra 5% that they're supposed to. Otherwise, as I said, you're not really doing anything. So,
but that's the argument that whoever's going for that adoption of that technology, they're coming to you and going, if this, then that. That's the cell in that spreadsheet we move. That's the number that has to change, and that's what you hold them to account on, right? Like, so that's kind of the explicit, not implicit, explicit buy-in. Sure, we can do that, and I expect this.
Yeah, and it's actually easier in a growth company because I can fill the buckets with more clients easier, right?
Yeah.
If I've got churn, I could choose to not replace, and therefore I do have now created an efficiency gain, right? I don't need to replace that account manager because they're all working more efficiently now. I can redistribute their clients. Problem is if things are static, because it's actually really hard. Are you going to go and make someone redundant tomorrow? Like that's a very big call culturally and for many other reasons to make. And so people don't want to do that. We don't want to replace people with technology. And I think that's a really important thing that most businesses hold pretty important. Like we're going to go invest in technology and it's to make everyone's lives better. Very different if you suddenly start laying people off the back of that, right? So yeah, I think really understanding how productivity is going to flow through to the bottom line is really important.
You mentioned upfront P&L items as well and sort of that attachment. And whilst you were speaking, Ross, my mind went to retention rates as well across that existing cohort, if it is an account management capability as well. And if you're going to invest in that sort of AI capability, is there an opportunity through KPIs to increase retention rates on those clients because you've got the capacity to invest back into that customer as well? So I think the point about attaching that to a P&L or even a balance sheet item, I think the balance sheet is the often forgotten
always forgotten
of just about every business I've ever supported. But in this particular instance, as I was hearing you talk, the immediate opportunity for me was around the retention rates. If your customers are stickier, you're retaining at higher rates. There's an opportunity to cross-sell, upsell. You've got new products and tools that you're taking to market as well. If there's a capacity to have that conversation, then that's how I'd start to build out that business case.
Absolutely. And so even if I model our business, we've, as a largely recurring revenue model, you've got your churn, so potential customers you're going to lose. You've got sort of upsell, downsell within your customer base, and then you've got net new customers, right? And so if for your long-term model has recurring revenue growth at a certain rate, and you can reduce churn through this, then, but I am putting that number up for next year. It's not, oh yeah, it'll be fine. We'll retain more customers. Well, no, guys,
Cool.
the number for next year is increasing.
Yeah.
But the dots that we're connecting there are through capacity. Like I think that's the critical takeaway for me is that we're not jumping from AI to retention rate. We're saying AI creates the capacity to support the KPIs, whatever they are. But you've got to be really specific about what they are because what I'm observing, and I think this is what you were implying, Ross, was that AI is perceived as creating the capacity, but then what? What are you doing with that capacity and how are you attaching that to a very intentional financial outcome?
Yeah.
I do see a lack of, when it comes to the allocation of licenses, whether it's Copilot or ChatGPT or whatever, inside a business, there's a lot of you get one and kind of a sprinkler kind of approach. Whereas if it was a cohort by cohort base, I expect to see this if you get that, this if you get that. The returns are clear and you can probably again do sort of bullets and cannibals a bit as well.
Look, I can only talk for myself here in saying that, if someone comes to me with a proposal that they can achieve more if they spend this over here, again, an investment mindset on, like, why wouldn't you?
It's not cost then, it's investment, yeah.
Yeah, and so that comes back to technology needs to be seen. There's a baseline of technology that's absolutely a cost, but otherwise, the majority of technology spend is actually an investment.
There is a risk to manage here as well, and let me play devil's advocate as the CFO. But the risk that I see is that if you don't afford that person the license, they take out a license as an individual and jeopardize potentially some of the security protocols.
Absolutely a risk. Ross often speaks about this. Don't tell them they can't have something, give them something better, right? And that's kind of the challenge.
Yeah. Well, don't come to me, it's the cliche, but don't come to me with the problem, come to me with the solution. What are you solving through this opportunity?
Yeah. Okay. I'll finish on this. The vendor ROI mirage. We are in the world of AI. There's a vendor for everything. There's more and more all the time. All of them have a promise. How do you fact check or sort of pressure test those promises? What's your advice to the owners of IT budgets inside these businesses?
The
bullshit on
700% ROI or the 10 times look, the way I look at ROI is I have a baseline ROI, which is what return can I get for this money in the bank, right? Like that's kind of your baseline ROI. And so we kind of know what return on our cash might look like.
Is it better than 5.5%?
5.5.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, I could put it in a managed fund and get 10%, right? So if I can get an ROI of 20 or 25 or 50%, we're talking about a really easy way to make money, theoretically.
Yep.
Right? So if there's genuinely ways to make a 700% return on money, we'd all be doing it all the time. And so I think that, there's, if someone's saying there's some ridiculous percent ROI, they're not factoring in the investment required to deploy it, the invest to support it. There's something missing from that calculation because there's no real scenarios where I can go, here's $1,000 and you can give me $7,000 back next week. Like that doesn't happen.
And I guess that's why we have a job, right? Because our job is to go in and go, let's actually talk about the underlying infrastructure costs, about the maintenance costs, about the integration costs, about the whatever. And that's the full picture.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is very much approach with caution for me. Like, again, it comes back to your ultimate why. And I think that there isn't any governing body that sort of then goes and proves out these assertions from vendors either. And it's at risk of being a slippery slope, if not verging on dangerous, because your specific scenario will be entirely unique as well. And so...
That's very true.
I think this is approach with caution.
You must see that all the time. No two businesses are the same. There might be the same, demo sector, staff count, but there's always some system, some tool, some legacy thing, some way of doing things.
Yeah. Well, everything's downstream, right? And we might touch on this in the next episode, but this concept that I've been flirting with is the general ledger as the central nervous system of a business, and the fact that you're not looking at that process in isolation either. It's what are the downstream impacts, and that's where every business is so uniquely positioned.
All right, I know you're chomping at the bit to talk about that, so we'll come back to that. We're going to wrap that up for episode 2. So essentially we've covered off on the ROI gap, why it's going wrong for so many companies, and how to ensure that your spend is actually translated to a very clear movement in a positive direction, hopefully on your forecast sheet, which again, episode 1, we talked a lot about. And the second one is really just talking about that, the adoption piece and the vendor ROI mirage. So that's a terrible summary. I can do that again later. We're going to leave episode 2 there. Because we've covered off on the ROI gap, what's going wrong for a lot of businesses and how to fix it up. And we also touched on the vendor claims that we need to pressure test. Next episode 3, Jarrod's back, Ross is back, and we're going to talk about how to build the right tech stack, which is very much where Jarrod is going to own the conversation. How do you make sure that your owner of the tech budget in your business has access to the right tools that will enable them to build out a forecast, not rely on month's end, and actually underturn the return on that spend? See you soon.